Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're jumping back into Avengers vs. X-Men vs. Eternals, with more depth to the mutants. And again for this one, it's more like a deeper dive into some of the stuff that we'd seen already, but I like how this is done because not only do we get to see more judgment, but also we get a deeper understanding to why some people are getting the thumbs up and others are getting the thumbs down, which in its own way gives us a bit more insight to more of the reasoning behind the Progenitor's judgment. So with that said, let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so for this one we get a deeper look at some of the events that had taken place in Judgment Day Part 3, and it fills us in with a lot more of the details for some of the things that looked like they just popped up, but also with us knowing at this point that much of what had taken place had really just been a test where the Progenitor was psychically projecting the whole battle and the aftermath to everyone, that really this is one of those cases where no, there aren't any consequences because it didn't happen, but the main takeaway is that if it did, this projection is exactly how it would have played out, and also everything that we saw everyone do is true to their actual capabilities, which was displayed with the decisions that they would have made, which we'll also find in a number of cases that this allows for judgment for someone's actions without the consequences of their actions. And now that I'm thinking about it, the judgment is the consequence, but since the things that happened weren't real, the judgment is like the only consequence in most cases. But to start this off, I want to begin with what we're shown, with us now seeing Emma Frost make the arrangement for the mutants to get the additional help from the Deviants. And now we're seeing that happen with us seeing the actual conversation that she had with Crow. And when we see this, we find that there's really not a lot of convincing that Emma had to do, because Crow is really straightforward when he tells Emma what he had told Ikaris, because when he helped Ikaris, he made it clear that this was in the best interest for himself and his people, while also letting Ikaris and the others know to make sure that what his faction of Eternals do doesn't point back at the Deviants, which was mainly because he didn't want the actions of Ikaris to reflect the Deviants, but instead if the Deviants do get involved, to let that be of their own actions. But also with Crow mentioning this to Emma, for one, we're shown that he's on the same page that he was with Ikaris, because not only is he acting in the best interest of the Deviants, but because mutants are considered Deviants, he's agreeing to help them on the battlefield because he also sees them as his own people, which for Crow, that consistency shows his true integrity, which really is what this whole judgment thing is about. But also we find that while Crow is talking to Emma, he also flirts with her a little bit, which also is just true to who he is. Ask Athena. But also, like we had seen in Judgment Day Part 3, this led to Crow and the Deviants of Lemuria stepping in and entering through the Krakoan gates, which again was like a show of confirmation that the Deviants as we've known them, as well as the mutants, share a similar structure of DNA. And for a moment here, we're shown a bit more as Crow brings the Deviants to Krakoa, because it's this decision, as well as why he made this decision, that plays a heavy part in his judgment, which we also seen in Judgment Day issue 3. Because on one hand, it could be seen like he had just brought his people here and led them to a death sentence, but on top of us being shown that he's doing this for all Deviants, mutants included, we're also shown that when he arrived, he believed that this alliance had a chance for success, because part of his strategy when the mutants arrived in Krakoa was for them to bring a monstrous excess deviation and launch it at the Celestial in hopes that it would distract the Hex and pull them off of Krakoa. And even though initially it seemed outrageous and it was totally against what Emma and the others wanted Crow and the Deviants to do, but with Crow doing this, we come to find out that his plan was successful, because with launching this excessive deviation towards the Celestial, it caused a number of the members of the Hex to obey their principle and leave to protect the Progenitor above everything else, which was a huge help for Krakoa. But like we had seen when we were shown that this whole battle was a simulation, more or less, that it really just served the purpose of being a test, we had also then seen that this led to the swift judgment of Emma Frost getting the thumbs down, Crow getting the thumbs up, as well as many others getting their judgment as well. And it's from here where we get another closer look on how this played out, because when Emma got the thumbs down, she expresses to Crow that with her getting a thumbs down, that hurt, because if the world ends after this 24-hour clock is up, she'll be part of the reason why it did. And for Crow, we get this moment where he gives Emma a few words of comfort by sharing with her an ancient Deviant proverb, which pretty much just says the Celestials can go F themselves, which I thought was just hilarious, like turn to 1st Deviants chapter 2. But immediately after Crow was saying this, we then see his judgment follow swiftly after, with the Progenitor appearing to him in the form of Irisham the Judge. And initially the Progenitor's getting ready to give Crow the thumbs down, but with him asking Crow, why did he bring his people to Krakoa? Why did he bring the Deviants here to die? And without hesitation, Crow gives the Progenitor the same explanation, the same answer that he'd given to Emma Frost, as well as Ikaris. And for Crow, because of his unwavering integrity, Crow was given the thumbs up, because even in the face of judgment, with the Progenitor appearing as Irisham, which in itself was almost like another test, since Crow lived a life that is longer than most Deviants, he was around when the Celestials burnt Lemuria, and that memory haunts him in a way. But with Crow not faltering, and giving the Progenitor the same explanation that is consistent with who he is, this got him a thumbs up as well as the rest of the Deviants, which for the Deviants this was the first time in a million years that they had felt loved by a Celestial. And after this we then go over to the Eternals, where we find the Delphin brothers blaming each other for the experimentation that made them multiple, and whether that'll be seen as heresy, as well as if they are to blame for it. And much like we've seen before, Druig, he's super nervous right now because he's not sure how he's going to be judged. And like we'd seen, his only hopes of getting a thumbs up was the advice that he had gotten from Uranos, which was to continue his attack on Krakoa and stay true to eliminating excess deviation. But we also get a look at the Progenitor making his way to judge Uranos, and very quickly Uranos is like, hey, it ain't time for that yet, I'm just getting started. Because for him, with all that we've seen him do recently, he expresses that he's barely begun to do his work. But in the case of A.J.A.C, Makari, Ikaris, and the others, who are often just referred to as a faction of Eternals, since their beliefs don't line up with the majority, but even amongst their small faction, they're not even in line with each other, which is something we've seen unfolding prior to now. But it's here where Ikaris takes it up a few notches, because with Sersi, who has stepped off and handling her plan, we pick up here with A.J.A.C's solution, which is using this podium so they can speak to the Progenitor, understand their new god, and their new god can understand them, rather than just trying to destroy it. But then it's here where Ikaris rushes to the podium and he just shouts death to the Eternals, which, like we'd seen, that is what Ikaris is on right now. But A.J.A.C and the others, like when they first hear this, they're like, bro, that ain't it. But it's here where we see Ikaris take the opportunity to express to the Progenitor that they should be removed from the machine, the Eternals are now obsolete, and when A.J.A.C tries to stop Ikaris from saying this, he pretty much hits her with the Krypton had its chance beams. Because for the past million years, A.J.A.C has had that platform in some form or fashion. But now in this moment, Ikaris is going to say what he feels needs to be said. And with him expressing this, the Progenitor responds that he will consider it. But then on top of this, we then get a moment where the Progenitor then asks Phastos, A.J.A.C, and Makari that with everything that has unfolded within these hours, and them creating this new god that stands before them, would they do it all again? Phastos says no because he only did it because he thought it was the lesser of two evils. Makari also says no because she thinks they could have done better had they had more time, and since it was a rushed job, the Progenitor is flawed. But for A.J.A.C, her response is yes, because again, she doesn't think the Progenitor is flawed, she just believes that they need time to communicate with this new god, understand him, and vice versa. And right after they answer this, the Progenitor gives his judgment. Phastos passes, Makari fails, and A.J.A.C's judgment is deferred till further notice, as well as Ikaris, who isn't judged just yet. But with hearing this, Phastos asks why did he pass and Makari fail, with them both giving the same answer. And the Progenitor tells them it's because Makari didn't do anything to course correct after the fact, while Phastos on the other hand assisted the X-Men on attempting to destroy the Progenitor, which is completely new information to A.J.A.C, which causes her to be pissed at Phastos. But right after this, we then get a moment where the Progenitor kind of looks in the camera and he tells the machine, who's pretty much been narrating this whole story, that he hasn't forgot about him, with the machine pretending to help but not really helping, but the time will come when the machine will be judged as well. And aside from this, I do also want to mention that we'd also gotten Cyclops' judgment in X-Men issue 14, which as far as the reading order takes place right before this issue. So at the time I was kind of waiting to see if we should combine the two into one, but within X-Men issue 14, aside from Cyclops telling the Progenitor that he doesn't care or acknowledge the Progenitor's authority, and really the only people who can judge him is his wife Jean and the rest of the X-Men, which is pretty much what then got Cyclops the thumbs up. But aside from that, there wasn't much that I'd really consider super substantial within that issue. And I mean, aside from that, we did get some cool moments from Cyclops and Magic, as well as Iceman giving a really dope speech, but in the larger picture as far as significance to the event, it really just felt like a filler. But after this, going back over to Sersi, who had left from A.J.A.C and the others to see through with her plan, which as we know is getting Jack of Knives to help her by breaking Starfox out of the exclusion. And when she does this, we see a couple things with Jack of Knives, to where in his case, even with everyone facing the end of the world potentially, his integrity holds firm. Because when Sersi asks for his help, he's already asking how much it's gonna pay, which again is true to his character. But on top of that, even taking it a step further, Jack of Knives already has a blade within his private collection, the Hall of Blades, that is specifically for this use case scenario. And really with him revealing this upon accepting Sersi's offer, it's kind of like a situation to where there would have been no other circumstance to where he would have actually used this blade. But with him having this blade ready and having a plan for that just in case type of scenario, with him having this contingency, it really seems like we're getting an example with Jack of Knives that his integrity is also unwavering, similar to what we had seen with Crow. But from here, him and Sersi get Starfox out like we had seen, and it's kind of funny that the machine refers to Starfox as a space slut. I'm keeping that one in my mental Rolodex. But from here, I do look forward to seeing where the judgment for Starfox is gonna land, because this guy's track record is messy. But also on top of this, we get a bit of a deeper look at more of the thoughts and the intentions of Sign the Mimitar, who previously throughout this event, for the most part, we've seen kind of side by side with Exodus. But this time with how this is done, we head over to London, where we find a young lady by the name of Sally, who for the most part has been trying to avoid the whole Judgment Day thing, which is the same way that she's been acting about her passion for poetry, because after pursuing her dream and getting her degree, she had let it stop there, because she had let people judging her for pursuing such an unconventional career get to her, in spite of her grandmother at one point encouraging Sally to pursue a career in poetry because you only live once. And Sally kind of brushes that off now, because she's like, hey, well, if you're an Eternal or a mutant, you live more than once, so what does grandma really know? But while she's online looking for more distractions, she runs into someone who has a new account that was made just a day ago, who's found interest in some of Sally's talks about some of the things that she aspires to do. And initially she thinks the new account is something questionable, but she goes on to entertain it, though she doesn't realize that this new account is actually Sign the Mimitar. But as this plays out, we come to find out that Sally gets the thumbs down from the Progenitor, who shows up to her in the form of her grandmother. And really because she never pursued poetry, and she'd spent her time either looking for distractions or just talking about what she wanted to do. And for Sally, after she had got her judgment, she had then reached out to Mimitar, saying like, oh man, I got the thumbs down mainly because of procrastination. And she asked Mimitar if she had been judged too, to where Mimitar responded, nope. So then Sally's like, do you think you'll get the thumbs down as well? And Mimitar's like, nah, I doubt that. Because Sign has been doing her form of poetry and what she's supposed to have been doing this whole time. And she is beyond confident that she is not gonna get a thumbs down for that. And really, once again, at the end of the day, this whole judgment thing, it seems that it has little to do with the traditional thinking of who's good or who's bad. But instead, more than anything, it seems to be more of an integrity check to where everyone's being judged on doing what they say they're gonna do, and in some cases, the results of what they said they're gonna do. And I'm curious to see how this pans out, like in a broader scope, if the Progenitor is judging everyone through that lens. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons and also show love for the new patrons for this month. So shout out to Kendrick R, Toxic K, and the Prodigal 24. Special thanks to all you guys. Thank you for your support. And if anyone's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below to where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.